what was happening in 2021 and why were people trying to cancel you?
I'll never forget receiving a 200-page CDC document that spelled out all the things that needed to happen at school. They even had the direction that you needed to walk. I started saying, I'm going to look for the data, the real data, not what the news is telling me, not what politicians are telling me. I want to see the data as to what's happening to our kids. Are they really being impacted? Because when you're paralyzed in fear, that's when you make fear-based decisions. Media did not like that. They did, who is the school? How dare this lady think she can go above what the media is telling the world to do or what the politicians are trying to push down our throats? Like, who is she?
Leila, how are you? Welcome. Super excited to have you today.
I'm doing well, Stephanie. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to jump right into it. I want to start off with maybe a semi-traumatic moment in your life back in 2021 when people were trying to cancel you and have you stop talking probably and get you off the internet. Let's go back to that time period and pull the listeners, the viewers into what was happening in 2021 and why were people trying to cancel you?
Sure. Well, let's go back a little bit further till September 2020, August and September, when the world started going back to school. And I'll never forget receiving a 200-page CDC document that spelled out all the things that needed to happen at school, i.e. the plexiglass around the tables, the social distancing. They even had, I really wish I could refine this document because they even had the direction that you needed to walk. Like you had to walk in a certain direction. I mean, it was like Communist Central. And, you have to remember, we had only opened our school 1 year prior. And I had hired a head of school that I thought was aligned. But when COVID hit, really, that turned out to have a whole new meaning, what aligned meant, right? And so I remember her giving me this document and her so concerned about her license, her name, if we don't do this exactly the way the CDC says. And I said to her, you don't care about the kids? They're not in jail, they're in school. And why would we have to follow these rules? It doesn't make sense to isolate these kids. Like, where's the data? So I did what any good critical thinker would do, which is what I pride myself to be, a critical thinker, which I'm really working hard to instill in our leadership team, to instill in the kids that we need critical thinkers. Is I started saying, look, I'm going to call the local children's hospital. I'm going to call pediatricians. I'm going to look for the data, the real data, not what the news is telling me, not what politicians are telling me. I want to see the data as to what's happening to our kids. Are they really being impacted? And just sift through all this insanity. And when I did, actually, you can rewind, I did that analysis in June, July. I realized our kids were safe. Unless they were severely immune compromised or they were very overweight. That was actually what one of the chief pediatric doctors told me, who worked for a hospital. He said, really, the only impact that they had were a couple of kids who were severely obese. So I'm like, great. If our kids are safe, why are we torturing them? Why are we forcing these kids to wear a mask for 8 hours a day? And so I stood up against all of it.
And this was for your school, by the way. So you're saying our school. This is the school that you co-founded.
Yes.
You're the CEO of a school called Centner Academy.
Yes.
And so this was your head of the school basically saying, you better listen to the CDC or I'm not going to stay here.
Yeah. She said, well, if you don't, I can lose my license. And basically, my license is more important than your kids. That's essentially what she said.
Yeah.
And I just said, look, I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. I took the document, I threw it in the trash, and I said, it's not happening. I'm not doing it. And I'm not wearing a mask either. And no one's going to make me wear a mask. And so fortunately, we were super blessed to fly under the radar. I mean, I was voiding contracts left and right. Parents were coming to me irate. You don't force your teachers to wear masks and they're going to get my kids sick and my kid's going to kill my parents, just absurdity. And I'm like, fine, you can leave. Voided out their contract, gave them their contract back. And so we hid under the radar because I was able to anybody that wasn't happy, let them out, Well, April 2021, when the COVID shots were flying around like they were, Skittles or something. I don't eat Skittles, but
Red dye, no
it
thank you.
seems like yeah, I don't eat titanium dioxide. But I again, I started to align myself with really amazing doctors that I just opened my eyes to a whole new world. Dr. Larry Plevsky, I don't know if you've ever spoken to him. If you haven't, you really
I
should.
know of him.
He's
Yeah.
amazing. I could connect you to his incredible pediatrician. That's just an
Amazing.
incredible
Yes.
critical thinker. That's just the most important thing to be a doctor, is to be a critical thinker, right?
Yeah.
So I had all these great doctors that I was able to ask them questions. I was able to they were able to share case studies inside their practice. They were able to share data that they're seeing with their own eyes. And they're like, Leila, there's a big possibility that kids that are going to get these shots, or adults that are going to get these shots, are going to shed, or basically somehow impact others around them. In fact, they saw cases with their own eyes. That's exactly what happened. And so I made a decision of asking our teachers, look, you really want to get this shot? Wait till the summer. Don't do it now. And of course, I didn't have everybody wasn't a fan who was at my school. COVID really kind of split the waves, and the people that weren't aligned ended up not renewing anyway. But somebody had leaked this Zoom meeting where I basically told them, I'm drawing the line in the sand, you need to choose.
Yeah.
If you want this, do it in the summer. You don't need to do it now. You're all young and healthy. And plus, we don't know what we don't know. And here's what information I'm receiving from other doctors. And I also brought some doctors in to speak to our community. I also brought in Bobby Kennedy, who's running for president,
Yes.
to speak to our community in January of 2021. Dr. Larry Plevsky came and spoke to our community. So I'm really trying to create that awareness, because when you're paralyzed in fear, that's when you make fear-based decisions. And when you make a fear-based decision, it's probably not in your best interest. Again, something we try and teach our kids. And so media did not like that. They did, who is this school? How dare this lady think she can go above what the media is telling the world to do, or what the politicians, are trying to push down our throats? Who is she? And they just went on full-blown attack. They tried to cancel me with every bit of their power. They were camped outside my doorstep. I had reporters galore out there. And, it did cost me $1 million, because I just, hey, you're unhappy? Here's your contract.
Yeah.
Void it out. Void it out. People that had signed for the next year, I was voiding out their contracts. No problem. You can go wherever you want. You're in a free country. And at the end of the day, I'm building a community, right? And so my thinking is, great. This is showing me who's aligned and who's not aligned. And it's not just about really the COVID shot. It's about who's open enough to be open, right? Because I'm trying to build a community of, we don't have to agree on everything, but how about agreeing on, you don't know what you don't know, and let's be open to truly hear what the other side has to say. And if you can't be open to what the other side has to say, then just maybe this is not the right place for you. I mean, I was trying to understand what Fauci was saying. I didn't even know who he was prior to all this. And I'm like, okay, what's this guy saying? Let me hear. What does he have to say? And I'd analyze what he had to say. I'd do research on what he had said, and I'd compare it to the other things. And I came to the conclusion, after listening to both sides, that it was all nonsense. And I needed to protect these kids with all my might. And that's how really this all began. I mean, we dropped from 280 kids down to 80. And now we're at 333 kids.
Of course you are.
You know?
That's how things work. That's how the universe works. And I love the idea of, allowing that to open up space to find your community and find, the ones who are open-minded. And I know that, Peter Thiel always says strong opinions weakly held, but that's the people that I look to be around, is you can have a strong opinion, but are you willing to change it if new information comes out? That's and right. You're informed in a different way? Are you willing to even think differently? And if not, that's pretty hard to stay holding on so strong to something that's being fed to you from who knows what intentions are behind that information and where it's coming from and why.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because before COVID, I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know truly who Bill Gates. I knew who he was, but I understood him as being a philanthropist. That was it. It took one person, it was actually a parent at the school, who said to me, "You know what this is really about, right?" And I'm like, "No." I had the first 30 days, I was completely clueless. She goes, "I'm going to give you a little homework. I'm not going to tell you everything. I want you to figure it out. Go and research Bill Gates." And so I remember leaving that, we were hanging out. COVID for us, we were hanging out on a boat, just, you know, to try to figure things out. And so I came home that day. I started researching. And within 3 days, I was crying, just bawling my eyes out, like, "Oh my God, is everything I've been taught a lie, a complete lie?" And then it took me about 30 days to convince my husband that I wasn't cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Yeah. More people can look further into that to maybe see what Leila's talking about with Bill Gates and maybe the connections. So I want to get into, I mean, to have people trying to cancel you for having an opinion and for running a private organization in the way that you wanted to, which is insane that people think they could and should control that. What do you think? I mean, you have such a strong and powerful backstory of how you grew up. So I kind of want to shift over to there because I can't help but think how you're able to get through what you've gone through the past, 4 or 5 years was because of a lot of the grit and resilience that you built up throughout your younger years. And so I'd love for you to kind of walk us through, where did that stem from? Where did that power come from that you were able to pull into today?
I completely give it to God. And I truly believe that I've got some pretty powerful angels that we all have angels, guardian angels. It's just some people decide not to access them. God is with all of us, He's right there in our hearts, ready to help guide us. Anytime we want or need, we just have to ask for it and we just have to listen to it. And I would say when I was younger, I didn't know what that voice was, but I felt like I could trust it, And so I would follow the lead of that powerful energy force, that would guide me every step of the way. And I just felt the comfort of knowing that I wasn't alone. And it wasn't until I was in my early 40s when I had my first spiritual experience where I realized, like, that voice, that inner knowing was always my guides.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first time I kind of heard that, I just broke down in tears, like, yes, that's why I never felt alone.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, on paper I was alone, but I really wasn't alone. It's really just carried me through. I mean, we grew up on welfare. We grew up in a super, poverty-stricken area, lots of gangs, lots of violence. And I just, every step of the way, I was kind of like plucked out of a situation, moved over here, boop, plucked out, moved over here. And I just follow. I just like, okay, where do I go now? It led me to USC. I graduated magna cum laude, top of my class in accounting. And then I went to work for, the top accounting firms. And again, just kind of being plucked from one, situation to the next, knowing that I was being divinely guided.
How did you know that? I mean, I'm thinking when you're in your 30s, 40s, I can see how you might be like, oh, that's what that's been. But I was listening to an interview where I think at 18, you were manifesting, you were listening to Tony Robbins tapes, like you were doing things that I'm pretty sure most other high schoolers were and are not doing. So how did you know to listen to that when you're in an environment that probably was not reflective of that at all? I mean, it didn't sound like you had parents who were like that, dads, stepfathers, you had a lot going on that would not have told you, go listen to Tony Robbins or let me teach you how to manifest something. So where did that come from?
I remember it was an infomercial.
Wow.
It was.
They work.
Then, yes. And, when they had those cassette tapes, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to skate. And so I put on my, remember those Walkmans?
Yep.
Pluck in a tape and just skate away. And just the fact that I saw that and I was called to order it, and it was, I don't know, $100. It's probably a lot of money to me at the time. I'm sure it was a lot of money to me at the time. And just following, hearing something and following that it feels right, and not following it when it doesn't feel right. And that's how I've always been able to get myself out of sticky situations, because something would not feel right in my heart or my stomach, and be like, wait a minute, I don't think I should be doing this. It does not feel right. And so I pull out of that situation and find out later that it went down a really bad path. Just listening. I mean, we all have this gut. We all have this intuition. You know, my perspective of it is that intuition is God and your guardian angels guiding you. And you can hear people say it like, I knew it in my gut that I shouldn't have done it, or that I should have done it, and I didn't listen to it. And that it's there for us all to access it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just depends who wants to access it. I'm no better or more special than anyone else. We're all really, we're all the same,
Mm-hmm.
and we all have access to that same voice.
Yep. How do you teach this to kids? Now I'm like selfishly, I try to with my kids. I mean, I told you they're 6 and 4, 4, 6, 6. And I try to teach them how to pause and breathe and feel into their heart. And, like if something, is that the right thing to do? Was that nice? Like I try and let them answer their own questions instead of telling them like, that's wrong. I try and get them to tune in. But how do you teach a kid to listen to that little voice in them, their intuition, their gut of like, to know whether this is something you should get into or not?
Exactly what you just said. You gotta, just kind of say, okay, let's just pause for a second and breathe. And many times they don't want to do it, but if you keep saying it over and over,
Yeah.
like sometimes I catch one of my daughters, in the corner of my eye, just going,
Mm-hmm.
so like they might refuse to do it at that moment in front
Yeah.
of you, because kids, they want to dig their heels in. But the more you say it, the more you do it in front of them. So like, let's
Mm-hmm.
say you're having a rough day, you're having a rough moment, or you're having a complicated situation you need to resolve. Just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just sit there. And sometimes my kids see me do this and they're like, Mom, what are you doing? I said, sweetheart, I need to listen to God right now. And the only way I can do that is I need to take a few minutes from Mom, and I need to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, I love that. Every day when I'm taking my kids to school, I'll do a mini breathwork exercise with them. But what I realized with 4-year-olds, they need visuals. And so I just tell them breathe until my hand goes all the way up to the
Yeah.
ceiling. And then you got to hold it. We'll do box breathing and then out. But just the visuals, now I see them asking for it on the way to school, where at first I was like, no, Mom, we want to listen to our podcast or whatever it is. But now they're like, well, can we just do that breathing thing for a little
Mm-hmm.
bit? And then, we'll talk and we'll do things we're grateful for and all that. But it's just creating a pattern.
Yeah, actually, that's what we do at our school. And you could probably YouTube different breathing
Mm-hmm.
exercises that you can teach kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think they have one where it's like a bubble,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
the
they
bubble breathing. Yep.
something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
They do it a lot better than me, or something, pop it, or
Yeah.
there's a lot of cute things that they do at school,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids like it because it's fun, it's interactive, and it's not just a normal like boring breathing.
Yep. Yep. So tell me about your school. How's it different? What are the core values for it, and why did you start it?
So the original idea came when we were living in New York, and we had our first daughter, and I was touring schools all over New York. I took the top 15, and I started from the top, and I went down. And as I finished the list, I just looked at my husband and I started crying. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I can't do this. You know, like there is a certain way we want to raise our child. At the time, we didn't have 2 kids yet. And it's either homeschool or it's do it on our own, because what I see here, you know, one school has one piece of it, each school maybe has one piece, but I'm like, there's this whole pie of this mind, body, and soul. And it's not that complicated. And we can have it all. And so like that's why at our school we've got, we built a farm. So we feed our kids farm to table.
Mm-hmm.
They learn meditation, they learn emotional intelligence. I have a kindergartner who reads at a second grade level, right? So the academics is in there. Oh my God, these kids, their confidence and their poise, like it's not like other kids. Like we teach them eye contact. We do Shark Tanks every year so they can ask their investors for money so they can build their business. And then a few times a year, we create a market space for them to sell their goods or services. So they're just, they walk up to strangers and they're like, would you like to buy this? Just teaching them these skills at this age to me is really invaluable. And so like, talking to these kids, okay, at the end, I'll go up to a few of them and I'll interview them and I'll say, okay, how much did you sell today? What were your costs? What was your profit? And just like now they're taking the math that they learn in class and real world applying it right there on the spot, feeling the money. It's tangible, having sold the goods and services, just really taking academics, but applying it to real life. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of fun to see these kids. And we've been doing this now. This is our 4th year. And to see like from the first entrepreneurship market to where we are today, mm-hmm. It's like, wow, these kids are learning so much and they're growing so much. And it's just, I wish every school had programs like this because they're actually making real money. Some kids are making $400 in one day. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. After hearing more about your school, it does sound like it's the best pieces of things that I liked. I mean, we have a school here in Austin called Acton Academy, which I really liked for the entrepreneurial aspect of it. And the teachers have all been, many of them entrepreneurs. They've actually done real world things. And so they can teach you about it. But then there was some other pieces where I'm like, but where's the outdoor time? Where's the nature? Where's the good food? And then I'm over at a Waldorf school, very outdoorsy on like 25 acres. They're having their own garden, but it's kind of missing the entrepreneurship piece a bit. So I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll teach them that. But I love how you kind of pull together the best pieces for, your kids. And then now, how many kids are at your academy?
333.
Wow. And are you expanding to high school as well?
Yeah, we started freshman year. Next year we open 10th grade, and then we'll go 11th and 12th. Mm-hmm. And so we'll be fully open. We're just taking it 1 year at a time. Yeah. But yeah, we have that at school. We have gardening. Our kids take field trips to our farm. What people also don't realize, maybe some of your listeners, is that the water coolers at mm-hmm. schools, oh my God, they are so unbelievably toxic, filled with lead, arsenic, aluminum. I mean, it should be illegal what these kids are drinking. Mm-hmm. So, we spend a lot of money on filtration systems that of course, you have to change the filter, but I'm manic about testing it. I mean, I hold our vendor accountable and I'm testing his water filters and I'm like, listen, I want this to be perfect, top notch all the time. In fact, a lot of the teachers take the water home because it's better than their water than they have at home.
Mm-hmm. And are you adding minerals back to the water afterwards?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we're so aligned. This is so great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, even our kitchen, because we cook the food for our kids, we ozonate the vegetables and the fruit because they come from either our farm or other organic farms. And since, no pesticides are being sprayed, of course you're going to have little critters, mm-hmm. When it's organic. And so we super clean it with, ozonated water and just mm-hmm. make sure that everything's like perfect.
Yeah, it's so good. So what is your vision for this? Where is it going next for the school?
My vision, what I'm trying to do right now is really kind of build a footprint. So that way I can just go, okay, you want to open your own, here it is, take it and run. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be the one opening schools all over the country because it's a lot of work. It's a labor of love. Mm-hmm. And it's not an easy task. So I don't have the desire to pop these up all over, but I would love to see parents, because you have to be hands-on. You mm-hmm. have to be really passionate about everything. Like I treat these kids like they're my kids. So they drink the same water that I drink at home. They eat the same food that I eat at home. Yeah. And we work really hard in surrounding them with love. And so like, it's funny, like pretty much all the nannies I've ever had at some point have worked at my school because it's like, you're good enough to work at my home, you're good enough to work at school, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Wanting our kids to just be surrounded by love and positive energy.
I love it. So let's shift over to, now that you said energy, I want to shift over to your wellness center because I was looking at some of the things you were doing there. One is around frequencies, energetics, and all that. But I would love to hear your vision with this wellness center that you started. Tell us more about it.
So it's Centner Wellness. You can go to centnerwellness.com. Oh, actually, before we go to Centner Wellness,
Yeah.
any of your listeners out there who are interested in an educational job, we are hiring like crazy because we are growing like crazy. And so, we look for teachers, and we have many teachers who have moved from different states,
Mm-hmm.
or people that are in the leadership position. We're just, we've been growing really, really rapidly. So if you have any listeners out there that who want to come to Miami and want to be part of our big mission, we're hiring. We're also hiring people at the farm as well. So
And you have housing for these teachers, possibly,
we do.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we buy a lot of real estate to help them out. We give them about 40 to 50% off market rent. So that way they don't have to stress out about, otherwise they have to drive an hour and a half just to come to school each way.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want our teachers to come to school like focused and ready. So that's why we have teacher housing.
Amazing. That's a good plug. Okay. Wellness center.
So Wellness Center, centnerwellness.com. That really transpired because about 3 years ago or so, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. I was also living in a house that was infested with mold. I came to find out later that I was also infested with parasites, which is just kind of an accumulation of, up until I was 30 years old, I lived an incredibly unhealthy life. As a child, I had a mom who was a nurse, and anytime I would have the sniffles, boom, antibiotics. Like that was her go-to.
Oh.
And so my gut was destroyed. My immune system was horrible. I kind of woke up at 30 going, why am I taking antibiotics every month?
Mm-hmm.
It's a blessing that I'm sitting here alive because I was very sick all the time. My throat would swell up every single time I got sick. These nodules would just be like full of pus. And so I grew up not knowing anything about health, not knowing anything about nutrition. And because I pretty much had to teach myself everything and anything, that was one of the things I had to figure out on my own, which is, wait a minute, like there is a better way to eat. There is a better way to live. And so I started that at 30, but there was still so much I didn't know. And then moving from California to New York to Florida, not really truly understanding like the mold situation in Florida. It took us like 2 years to figure out that we were under full blown attack. And I guess that mold attack kicked off the Lyme that had been in my body probably for 7 years, since that's when I was bitten. I was bit by a tick. But you can also get Lyme not by ticks. It's just, it really is an epidemic. And then I also had Epstein-Barr. I had so many things, and I knew something was wrong because my brain was zapping. Like, where you just all of a sudden you're like, wait, what did you just say? You just completely forgot.
Fog. Mm-hmm.
There's this fog, this memory loss, to me it was frustrating because like I used to pride myself to have this bionic memory, and I couldn't remember what I ate the day before, or I couldn't remember somebody's phone number. Like, to me, it's like, no, something is seriously wrong. And fortunately, I was really blessed the first doctor I spoke to happened to be a Lyme specialist. So as I'm on the phone crying with her, explaining to her all my symptoms, before she even ran anything, she knew instantly. She's like, I think you've got Lyme, but let's double check.
Mm-hmm.
And, sure enough, all the numbers were lit up. I got a thermography. I was inflamed from head to toe. And so, that began this journey. I knew instinctively I had already been fooled and duped by the medical community. So I was not going to go antibiotics route. Like, I was off antibiotics. I hadn't had antibiotics in 10 years. I'm not going back there, right?
Yeah.
And this was also after COVID. So my eyes were opened even more. So I'm like, okay, I just gotta do what I do. I'm going to figure it out. Uh, Took me to Spain. This journey took me to Spain, took me to Mexico, took me to like specialists in the US. And I'm like, it's actually not that hard to fix this. Really? What's the key? Detox, detox, detox. You gotta pull all these toxins out, because if there's Lyme, if there's mold, if there's parasites, there's definitely heavy metals. There's definitely all sorts of other things going on. And so you need to just take all the stuff out of your body, rejuvenate your cells, boost your immune system, and boom, you're on the right path. It's
Yep.
literally that easy. But they make it seem like it's not that easy. And so I am where I am now, just super grateful that I was able to figure out these elements, because I went from like pretty much my life was fading away right in front of my eyes to last night I couldn't sleep. I had so much energy. And I'm like, oh no, which supplement did I take that, gave me a little bit too much energy, that I need to tone that one down a little bit,
Yeah.
because I rotate on and off some different ones. Supplements are amazing.
Yeah.
And just waking up like full of energy, like waking up before I need to wake up, because I'm like ready to go. And really just something that everybody has access to. We all we're given the right to be healthy. Before pharmaceuticals even came into the picture in the early 1900s, like herbs are what healed us. Like there's an herb for everything. And so there are brilliant people in this world who have figured out these herbs, and they've put them together in different concoctions, and they give your body a gut reset, full body reset, brain reset, pull out the toxins, and give you like that umph that you need. And it's not that complicated. People that can't afford to come to a wellness center like ours, because we have a lot of technology, right? We've got scalar technology, we've got right frequency
Let's name it.
technology. Yeah, we've got hyperbaric, red light. We have all this cool stuff. But what I tell people who can't afford that is like, it's still okay. You still can figure this out. Maybe it might take you a little bit longer to get there, but you will still get there. You can do coffee enemas at home. You can do supplements at home to give your body a reset. We sell at our wellness center. Cellcore is one of the ones we sell. We
Yeah,
sell
for parasite cleanses.
yeah, parasite cleanses. We sell Global Healing, who's a good friend of mine, also owns that company. Super clean, amazing products. We sell Mitozen, so we sell a few different lines that are quality things that we've all tried and has leveled us up. I mean, even we have people who work for us that have never been sick and didn't realize that, oh my God, after I just did that 5-month protocol, I went up like many levels. I didn't even know that there was an issue, because I didn't know I could feel that much better, right? And so I tell everybody, like, you must do at least one time in your life a 5-month protocol. And then every month for like a week or a few days, just continue cleaning yourself up, because you are constantly being bombarded with toxins. And I look at it like a tipping point. Don't wait till you hit that tipping point where like the toxins and the parasites and the bacteria have taken over, so your body just goes like, no. Keep it in check, because you will, like, everybody has parasites, everybody has bacteria. They live in our bodies. It's okay, right? It's just keeping that balance, keeping that harmony. And if your gut is strong, right? Unfortunately, so many people have leaky gut because of glyphosate. So you do, let's repair that gut, right? Let's get that gut strong, because when your gut is strong and you keep the toxins at a minimum, right? You're never going to 100% get rid of them. It's just not possible. Not with this toxic world that we live in. But if you can keep that healthy balance where you got a lot less bad guys than the good guys, you will always be ahead. And that's why you'll meet people who say, I never get sick, because they have a strong immune system.
Yeah.
They have a strong gut. They've got a lot less toxins in their body than they do good stuff swimming around, right? And so don't wait. Like I see people that they hit 50 and they fall apart. I tell them, this is the analogy. Imagine you had a car. No, you have a car. Imagine never getting an oil change. Imagine never changing your filters on that car. Imagine never replacing the tires,
Mm-hmm.
right? Imagine getting a nail in your tire and just leaving it alone. Like, things will fall apart.
Yep.
Who are we to think that this beautiful temple that God created requires zero maintenance? Like, it's almost foolish if you think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it requires maintenance. Why? Because we live in a filthy world, unfortunately, where the water is fully polluted. Even the clean water has got stuff in it.
Has
It
fluoride
gets,
in it, has
yeah,
whatever in it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
You get stuff coming out of the skies, right? The food. Oh my gosh! Don't get me started on food. I work with Moms of America. It's a nonprofit organization, and my foundation helps fund some of their initiatives. The amount of metals in food is just, it's beyond. I even purchased some organic beef at a grocery store and sent it to her lab. It had full of lead,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so you just gotta, I don't want anybody to be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's knowledge, right? When you're equipped with the knowledge, you are empowered to just do something about it.
Yeah, I think it's having more critical thinking towards life and what's
That's
around
right.
you and the
That's right.
choices. And I do think right now, I mean, it does sound like, oh man, there's a lot of hard things in this world right now. How do I know where to look? What I see as an exciting time right now is that there's more data than ever. There's more of an ability to analyze that data quicker, whether it's getting a quick health check and having a full body scan with like Tony Robbins' company that he has, or I mean, anywhere really. And like the food, I mean, there's so many people who are bringing a voice to ingredients and what's going on, and just more access that's kind of bringing up this culture of people who are putting a spotlight on things that maybe have been really hard to see because normal people didn't have the ability to analyze data. Normal people didn't have the amount of money to have like an AI driven model for their diet based off their 23andMe. Like, it's all here now, it's coming. And I
Yes.
think the costs are going down because of, how quickly these technologies are scaling. So I do think it's an exciting time, but there is a lot to look at for sure.
Well, I just want to comment on the Tony Robbins, right? Because that he charges like 20 grand for that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and some of the equipment there is full of radiation, and not everybody can afford that.
Yeah.
You don't have to, right? Like, you can go to some of these places. We have it as well. It's like an AO scan where there's like because we're all energy and frequency. You can scan your body. And when I had my body scanned, I was shocked
Mm-hmm.
to see how close that body scan was to my actual lab work,
Yeah.
right? So there are other ways. Like, I just don't want people to feel that they need to spend $20,000 on getting scanned. There are also amazing doctors out there where they can, like, I don't know if you've ever seen this, where like you hold your arm up and they'll
Muscle
say certain
testing?
things and they'll push
Yeah.
your arm.
Yeah.
Like, that's real and it works.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had a whole you've probably heard of this woman, Terry Cochrane. She's called the spiritual doctor, but she looked at my 23andMe and then she guided my diet off of it. But then she added muscle testing to show where I'm at right now. And then she's intuitive and she's like, and here's the third thing to think about for you.
Yes.
You can process a lot more things than your DNA is showing. But don't have a bunch of that and you're fine. But like that mix, that like holistic mix of science plus,
Exactly.
all of that is what I'm looking for. So you would
Exactly.
probably love her actually if you'd ever, she's a whole mix.
I'm a very data driven person. So for me, because I could afford the labs, I pay for the labs, but I compare it to the woo woo stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I compare it to the energy stuff, and I compare it. A lot of times I won't tell people like anything that I have. I want to
Yeah.
see what that
Oh yeah.
energy
Yep.
machine spits back,
Yep.
and it's incredible how aligned it is.
Yeah. So what should people do if they're on a budget and people are listening and they're like, I've never done any health thing before. I've never gone and done any scans. I haven't done anything. Where should they start in a way that is budget friendly?
I just want to say one more thing real fast about 23andMe.
Oh yeah.
If you do have 23andMe,
Yeah.
make sure there's something that you can do where you pull your data off.
Yep.
They do not have
That's what I
access to
did.
your data. They do not own your data. They cannot share your data. Like, that's super important
Yep.
to make sure that you fill out that form. My husband did it, so I don't know what form it is, but because they're partnering up with pharmaceutical companies, and
I
you just
know.
don't want anybody having access to that.
Yep. I pulled my data off so they could not use it. So
Okay,
yes,
good.
it's a good plan. Yeah.
Good. So what I tell people, the easiest thing that you can do, and actually, I could send you a few links. I have a step-by-step how-to video for coffee enemas.
Oh yeah, all my friends do coffee enemas, and I have not done that yet.
Oh
And they
my
tell me
God.
how life changing it is, and they're like, it's not that hard. Just the first time's
It's
hard.
so easy. No, it's
Yeah.
so easy. It is
Okay.
something cheap
Yep.
that you can do at home. I'll tell you the first this is what I started before I started all like heavier detoxes. I was getting bowls and bowls of worms out, and I was also doing,
Wow. You saw it coming out?
oh yeah. Oh
Whoa.
yeah. Because I start with water enema, ozonated water, distilled
Okay.
water first.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just get these things out that I'm just like,
Wow.
wow. And then I get these, sounds gross, but shish kebab sticks, and
Uh-huh.
I'd swirl it around to see exactly what it is because I'm very curious. But that inspired me to like hit it a lot harder with herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 5 years old at the time, who was also super sick from mold. I was doing water enemas on her and getting out things like that big.
Wow.
I mean, insane.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say start with that. And then I would say the next thing you can do is, and I can give you a link, a code from our website for Cellcore because you need to get it through a practitioner. Just buy phase 1 of Cellcore, which is like opening up your pathways. And I recommend everybody do it with like the bowel mover and drainage activator. If your bowels are not moving, you have a problem
Yeah.
because that's part of how you detox. That's how you get the garbage out. And then I also tell people in infrared sauna, you can
Yeah.
get a $1,200 one where you stick your head out like a tent.
Mm-hmm.
I use Therasage. Again, I could send you a link for this as well. And these are 3 things you can do at home. And if you do these things, you will stay ahead of the game.
Yep. A sauna is next on my list. After all the research on saunas, I'm like, everyone needs a sauna, but
And you have to
yeah,
because,
or go to one.
first of all, your skin is your largest organ.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sweat, that's detoxing. And we just don't sweat like we used to.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't.
Yep. Yeah, we're not doing all the things like we used to.
No.
Yeah, my friend Lauren, who this is why we're even here. Lauren, she owns that company Higher Dose, and she has really good infrared saunas.
Oh yes.
So
Yes,
also
okay.
shout out
So
to
you
her,
should put
Higher
that one.
Dose.
You should put that one on the list. Yeah, hers
Yeah.
you lay down, right?
She has one that's a blanket that you lay
Okay.
down in, but another one's a full sauna that I think she's been partnering with a bunch of gyms and wellness centers and getting these saunas in there as well. But hers is the one I'm gunning for because she has the red light therapy and just
Yeah, get the
everything
one
that I
where you
want.
can lay down because then you
Yeah.
can just relax in it.
Yep,
And
yep.
you can close your eyes, you can listen to something,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just, relax for 20, meditate. It's a great time to meditate.
Yep. Yep. How do you figure out supplements? That to me is so when this doctor woman was telling me what supplements I needed, which was mostly from muscle testing, it's ones I would have never thought of, like you need quercetin with bromelain, you need choline, you need to take grapefruit seed extract for mold in your lungs. That's from probably psilocybin at one point. Like she's like, that's not from a regular mushroom. Like here, take this instead.
Oh, wow.
So she was very specific. This was her intuitive part plus muscle testing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I had not ever even thought of those. I thought of the basic ones like vitamin D and zinc and C, but not those. So how do you think about getting into the supplement game if you don't have a functional medicine doctor or integrative medicine doctor?
This is awesome. You have somebody like that. Actually, that's how I helped heal she's 9 at the time, but when she was born, they tried to scare me and tell me she had meningitis, and so she gave her a spinal tap, and they hooked her up to
Dang.
antibiotics for 3 days, destroyed my baby's gut. But I went to a guy who did the same thing for her. I held her in my lap, and he told me all the minerals and everything that she needed, and I rebuilt her immune system in like 2 years with exactly that technique.
Yep.
But
yep.
there's so few of those people out there that exist. And so they're like certain ones that is like a go-to, like, CoQ10, quercetin, vitamin D with K2, like, if you have to guess, there's like the zinc and the C, right? Just kind of like, if you can't afford to go with somebody, just kind of stick in that little bucket,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You take a probiotic. There's a great probiotic company. I can't think of the name right now. Maybe it's Flora, where you like actually send in your stool,
Yep.
and they like send you back probiotics, which is
Yep.
awesome as well.
We were doing that for a little bit. My partner was doing it.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
One of the tests that I like, if people can afford it, I can't remember how much it is, maybe $400 or $500, but it's a 3-day comprehensive stool test. We also offer this. We have health coaches too. So, for anybody that's interested in having one of our health coaches like run this test on them. But what I like about this test is it tells you like so much. And then there's a little section where like, let's say you have candida. The type of candida you have, it will tell you what herbs work best for that particular type of candida. And it's just such a fantastic test. One thing I do want to like warn people about is some of these tests will come back and say you don't have parasites. That doesn't mean you don't have parasites.
Yeah, you just don't have bad big ones. Yeah.
It just means the ones that they're testing you for, you don't have.
Yeah.
And so, and some of the tests are just horrible with parasites, just period. Like they always come back negative, or they only come back positive if it's like a disaster there,
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell everybody like you should be on parasite cleanses, for the rest of your life, but you don't have to do it as comprehensive as some people out there that do them, like I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Lee Merritt. She's like, she does the whole pharmaceutical monthly, super complicated. You don't have to do that, that's another level. You could just do the basic cell core 1 week a month, or you could do Dr. Group's parasite formula with his binder. You could keep it as simple as you want. And Dr. Group's products are fantastic. He even has a candida bottle. So, for people that can't get the resources, you will have to go based on trial and error. So it's kind of like take something, give it a few days, see how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can also muscle test yourself if you
could,
want to.
Technically,
I mean,
yes.
I know I try and get some of my friends to do it. And they're like, I don't feel anything. But I mean, I will hold up a supplement in front of me and close my eyes and ask, do I need this thing? And if my body goes forward, then I know I do.
Yeah.
Very woo-woo. But people listening to the show, they're like, we know stuff. She's woo.
Yeah. Yes.
But it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's pivot a bit to go to what could be a more controversial topic. I love the idea of not making fear-based decisions because it's so easy as a mom to get in there and then have your baby be like, whatever you say, I just want them to be okay, versus going in with a plan and being like, and that's kind of what I did when I was looking through some of those books. But it's, hard to do that sometimes. But when you go in there with information, even when someone comes and tells you like, this is really serious, it's going to be like, how serious? Hold on, let me take a step back because I already did a bunch of research and I know you're trained to tell me this is very serious and everything's very serious and risky. And I've read, there's so many other people out there who say different. And that's what I think is cool about the space now, is that there's so many other people talking about this stuff. And it's crazy to think that you would just trust one doctor.
What's mind-blowing to me is how many moms feed their kids pure organic with no chemicals, nothing, right?
Yeah.
But then they don't read the label. How do you scrutinize, every little thing that you're putting into your child's body except a pharmaceutical drug?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many conflicting interests trying to keep people in line and doing the thing that they've always done and not question history. I mean, you see it in so many spaces. You see it with food. I mean, people talking about back in the day that organic didn't matter. I mean, I remember looking at these posters of being like, it doesn't matter, and the different doctors telling the moms it doesn't matter. That still going on. You've got the stuff now with psychedelics that you see people being like, no way, you definitely can't use this. Keep with the antidepressants. They're the only ones that work. Meanwhile, it's like a plant is being shown to help military, veterans, lots of people, everyone. So there's just so much to question these days. And I think it's very powerful to get into that mindset, not only you coming on the show talking about it, but empowering kids who are coming through your program. Just think critically, ask questions, and don't just do something because someone is telling you it's the best thing to do. We all get to be our own informed decision maker in 2024 and beyond. And now's the best time to be able to do that.
That's what I tell my daughters. Question everything. Everything. And they do. They question me all the time, like, Mom, why do I need to take these vitamins? No, none of the other kids took these vitamins. Okay, let me show you why Mom, why do I need to do this? Or I'm glad they're asking me questions. because I don't want them to just do what I say, you know, and there
Yep.
are certain things that they'll ask me questions about, and I'll say, you know what? When you're allowed, because you're not really allowed on devices right now. By the way, that's a whole nother topic that I've completely ripped devices out of my kids' lives
Yep.
because
Same.
the destruction to their minds. I mean, it's a whole nother level. The ADHD, the
Yep.
meanness that's out there online, even if their kids are watching kids' videos,
Yep.
the subliminal messaging, what it's doing to create the chaos in their brains. I mean, please, parents, keep your kids off of devices as long as you possibly can, because I saw a shift in completely the wrong direction. And when I took them off of it, I saw them come back to the pure, beautiful innocence that they were. And it happened right in front of my eyes so fast. And I've been talking to so many other parents about this and seeing they experience the same thing.
Yep.
And then when they follow what I've done, they're like, oh my God, I got my child back.
Yep. I did the exact same thing. My kids go to a Waldorf school, so it's no media policy. You can't watch it. You can't have it on your t-shirts. You can't have any of that. And we actually talked about on a previous episode of Mission Daily, we had a whole conversation about this. But yeah, once I took all screens away, my kids got so much better and so much more creative, and they were having plays for each other and all these imagined scenarios, and it was so different than what I was witnessing before. And my kids weren't on screens all the time. It was maybe like 30 minutes here and then they'd be done. And it still was drastically impacting them.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm also a proponent. It sounds like we're very aligned on many, many things.
I think it's the real new epidemic that's silently destroying our youth and destroying our future. You know, it's this instant gratification of like, and these dopamine releases and hits that they
Yep.
get from
Yep.
these devices, like, and so everything else is boring.
Yep.
And
Because
then
they're
when they go
creating
to
addictive
school,
behaviors on there, and their eyes are moving
yes,
all around, and they're constantly needing that stimulation.
they
So
need
yeah.
that stimulation. Then they go to school, and these poor teachers, they could pinpoint the iPad kids. My teachers have told me I could pinpoint exactly which kid is using a device from the moment they get home, or even 30 minutes a day creates that disruption. And you know, I think this is all strategically planned, unfortunately, because there are certain countries that will not let their kids on devices. You know,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's, man. We'll have to definitely do a round two.
yeah.
Layla, thank you for coming on Mission Daily. Where can our listeners, viewers learn more about all of the work that you're up to and find out more about you?
Yeah, so like I said, if you're interested in our school, just go to centneracademy.com. We're also on Instagram, Centner Academy. If you are interested in visiting us at our wellness center at centnerwellness.com, or you can go to our Instagram, Centner Wellness, and feel free to reach out to us. And we will share the video of the coffee enemas and a link for cell cores so you can get started on detoxing your body and, you know, exploring a more healthy way of life.
Amazing. Thank you.